welcome to our panel session where we're going to be discussing Bitcoin and gold as safe haven. We're going to be discussing some of the recent financial market moves following what has been such a really exciting period of global financial market volatility. We're also going to discuss a little bit about the controversial view that Bitcoin can be considered as an alternative safe haven asset. And then we're going to provide a little bit of an overview towards what types of themes in global financial markets, including Bitcoin and gold, we should be looking out for moving forward. So the first thing I'd like to do is thank our panelists for their contributions. Thank you for taking the time today to join us. And I am going to break straight into it. So thank you guys for taking the time to provide your insights and contributions towards such an exciting topic. My first question to each of you, in light of this topic on Bitcoin versus gold, is whether you think that Bitcoin can be considered as an alternative asset of safety. And I will start with you, please, Andy.
Hi, everyone. I think it's definitely one of the more reliable alternative right now. You know, if you look at the this market cap right now for global assets, I think we are probably top 5 or top 6 right now. You know, in terms of market cap, and why this is getting a lot more traction than before is quite obvious because institutions, you know, are really stepping up, you know, to look at Bitcoin at another level. You know, BlackRock is coming in, changing the narrative, telling the client to buy and so forth. I think that is a really big sign that we are doing very well, you know, for Bitcoin at least. And right now, you know, if you look at what happened in the last few years, right, there are people who are saying that, oh, Bitcoin is not going to survive, so it's very volatile and so forth. Well, look at it right now. You know, it just passed the all-time high as we speak. So it says a lot, you know, for the last 10 years. So I started my journey in 2013, and then going full-time in the space in 2017. I think the whole narrative and the whole journey right now, you know, I think has been really different. You know, so I must say, since we have a lot of different adoption coming from the institutions, it must be the next best alternative investment or asset that we can find right now.
Okay, so we have a Bitcoin enthusiast and a crypto enthusiast with us, and I will now pass over to Rizwan. Do you think that Bitcoin can be considered as an alternative asset of safety?
Hello, everyone. I think when we compare gold versus Bitcoin, so gold is having a long history in terms of economical turmoil and geopolitical. When you compare historical data, so gold gives this case, the case is solid case. But Bitcoin started 2009, and there is some challenges as well in terms of regulation, in terms of technological advancement. It will take time to be as a safe haven asset, to be honest. So I think we need more time with Bitcoin, at least 10 to 15 years, and then it can be considered as a safe haven.
Thank you, Rizwan. And Richard, as the crypto technical analyst, what is your view on this? Can Bitcoin be considered as a safe haven asset?
Hello, Jamil. Thank you for hosting this amazing session. Hi, everyone. To answer Andy's claim, it's now 5th as biggest market caps once. So gold is first, blah, 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 5 Bitcoin. We're planning for Bitcoin to be first, hopefully, in like 10 years maybe. For risk, Bitcoin doesn't ask for any permission, it just works. So it's a safe haven, and it's in terms of safety because it has a fixed supply. No one can freeze it, no one can control it, no one can take it from you. The blockchain hasn't been hacked ever. If you want to store big amounts of gold, you will need banks or vaults, creating counterparty risk. It might be stolen, it might be blah, blah, blah. While for Bitcoin, you don't need a bank. You are your own bank. That's true. Yesterday I was here, I did a quick survey. I asked people, random people, 21, which one do you prefer, Bitcoin or gold? and 17 answered Bitcoin. They are new generation. They are like young people. Three old people, not old, sorry. So, but like above 50 boomers prefer gold because it's tangible, it has a legacy trust, and so on. While Gen Z prefer Bitcoin, it's freedom, and so on. So, for Gen Z generations, they think that safe havens are not about storing value, like hiding it. It's about accessing value anytime, anywhere.
Okay, thank you so much, guys, for answering that question. And I'm just going to break this topic down a little bit further now. Because if you look at some of the most recent financial market themes that have taken place, for example, during the global market volatility since Trump tariffs on April the 2nd, we actually saw quite a dramatic drop in Bitcoin value. Of course, since then it's recovered, so have global markets. However, at that point, gold continued to charge to new all-time highs. However, when you look at what's happened this week, where we've had the famous Moody's downgrade of the US credit rating, we have now, in the days following, seen Bitcoin break new all-time highs, included early this morning. So it's in fact such correlations that inspire this somewhat controversial topic that we can view Bitcoin as maybe a safe haven. But is it considered as a hedge or a safe haven when, if we look at the mechanisms of Bitcoin and price action, it's still a volatile asset? And I will start with you, Andy.
I'm not an economist. Although I write a column every day about what's happening, but if you look at the correlation between gold and Bitcoin, I think seeing this as a Bitcoin, well, I would say a Bitcoin enthusiast. I felt that the hedge is definitely there. But I don't think we should really just look at Bitcoin itself as a hedge. So if you speak to some of the institutions, the banks and so forth, so a bit of a background. So I'm a licensed fund manager. I'm based in Singapore. We deal with a lot of different family offices. We deal with larger institutions, boutique banks and so forth. Many of the banks right now, they think that yes, Bitcoin is a good hedge. But at the same time, they are looking at building a certain basket so that they can feel that it's more comfortable. They could be building it with maybe Ethereum, I'm not sure, maybe with Solana and some other physical asset. So if you can have a basket of other assets, I think including Bitcoin, I think that would be a very good hedge. Because Bitcoin itself, although is volatile, but you can see the kind of upstream push right now that that there's buying power. There's actually big institution backing them up. So with all this plus a basket, I think that would be a very good hedge. Not just Bitcoin alone.
Thank you, Andy. So Andy has pointed out there a little bit about investor diversification. Rizwan, what about you? What is your opinion?
I think Bitcoin is more like investment, and it's for aggressive investors. And when you see the return in Bitcoin, like 2012 to 2022, is like 3,000%. So it's more like an investment. And I would say, if investor want to hedge, they need to diversify with other assets. They should not dependent only on Bitcoin, but for diversified hedge, I will agree. It can be a diversified hedge with other assets like gold.
Okay, thank you, Rizwan. And Richard?
Yes, it's volatile, yes, but doesn't mean it's weak. So let's go for market cap, as Andy mentioned in a bit. So gold market cap, I'm not sure today, but it was around 22 trillion last week, while Bitcoin market cap is 2 trillion. So gold is 10 times bigger. It makes sense. It's 10 times less volatile. So as a rule of thumb, the lower the market cap, the more volatility. But doesn't mean it's weak. It's opportunity and not weakness. So Bitcoin might swing short term, but long term, it's done exactly what a hedge should do. It went up, protect you against inflation, currency devaluation, and so on. So, in my opinion, safe havens aren't measured in days, they are measured in decades. And we're already 15 years and we're already in the same conversation between Bitcoin and gold.
Yeah, many would argue that Bitcoins and cryptocurrency as an asset itself is still in its infancy. And with that in mind, guys, I'm going to break down now further into this debate between Bitcoin and gold. And my question to each of you is whether it's possible to be optimistic on both assets. Let's start with you, Andy, please.
Definitely, if you have money to buy gold, why not buy some Bitcoin, right? So I'm not sure within our panel. I mean, since it's a debate, I'm a Bitcoin guy. I'm not sure about my two fellow panelists, but
Look, Andy, I have a Bitcoin earring. It's made of gold, but it's Bitcoin.
I'm gonna give you my tattoo. No, I don't have. But I personally felt that it's not a Bitcoin or gold kind of comparison right now. If you are a smart investor, you would get both of them, right? Whether you are thinking of this in the longer term, I think now gold is doing fairly well, honestly. And if you fast forward Bitcoin another decade, another 10 years, it might even do a lot better because you did mention that it's not a safe haven, because it's not been tested for many years. But if you zoom down to the specific, actually Bitcoin has done so well compared to a lot of others so-called safe havens that we see right now. Whether it's silver, gold, for example, we did very well if you zoom in. But as long as it maintains the current momentum, I'm very sure that in the next 10, 20 years, we are definitely better. If not, maybe lose a little bit, maybe in terms of market cap. But I think in terms of performance-wise, it's definitely better. So please, we should buy both.
Okay. So what about this one? Is it possible to be optimistic on both assets?
Yeah, of course. Why not? As you know, the US president is really optimistic. The rest of countries will follow US in terms of regulation. And when you compare gold and Bitcoin, I think both will be bullish in short term at least. And the factor is demographic when we compare both assets. Like as Andy said before, the young generation, the tech-friendly people, they prefer Bitcoin. But old school investors, like old school people, they will still prefer gold. But in short term, both can be bullish. Yeah. Right.
Thank you, Rizwan. We're actually going to talk a bit more about the returning US president and financial market themes a bit later in this panel. But before we do that, Richard, anything to add?
I agree with Andy. Maybe the question is not choosing one. Maybe the answer is understanding when each one matters. So Bitcoin is a store of value. Sorry, gold is a store of value. Bitcoin is an investment. So gold protects your capital while Bitcoin grows it. So to have the perfect balance, you have to have both. Exactly. Gold for your future and Bitcoin for your kids' future.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. And Rizwan mentioned there some of the themes on the agenda for the returning US president, and that's actually our next topic. So let's talk a little bit further about the different themes that are driving financial market sentiment. It's certainly been a very eventful Make America Great version 2 so far. We've gone from threatening an all-out economic trade war to even threatening the public position of the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, as the leader of the United States Central Bank. So my question to each of you is, are there any particular themes that any of you are watching more closely? And I think one of you might be mentioning the upcoming crypto bill. And I will start with you, Andy. Crypto bill.
I'm a little bit more crazy, Instead of just looking at what the politicians are trying to gear us towards, I want to look at things that are more fun. For example, today there is a Trump dinner, right? There's a Trump dinner. So one of my portfolio company I'm closely working with them is called MEMCore, MEMECORE. They are the second largest holder of the Trump coin, right? And they are all being invited to be part of a dinner. right? So my questions to all my small community, is that do you think such a dinner would have an impact, to the coin itself, to the Bitcoin itself, to the Trump coin itself, and in general to the whole crypto market? My answer to them is yes, it will. Because all these really small, little fun events can actually trigger a lot more retail attention, as compared to, the CPI is down, the Fed is doing this and that. Not so much, but all these small events become a really good trigger point for institutions, market makers, and also the retail guys to come in together to speculate. So I think that could be a fun thing to look at, instead of just looking at, you know what's CNN is going to say, right? So if we are in the crypto space together, we should look at some of these crypto events that are specifically kind of curated, for us to look at and speculate, right? So that's my few cents worth.
Thank you so much, Andy. Usman, which financial market themes are you watching?
I think geopolitically, de-dollarization is the main factor for near mid to short term. Because when the like big economies like China, like India, Russia, they are moving away from USD. So it will affect, and the people will be more into Bitcoin and alternative way of cross-border payments. And other is the trade settlement expected in near future between US, China. I think it will be a great event to watch in terms of Bitcoin volatility and gold.
Thank you so much. This topic of de-dollarization is something that in the lead up to the November 2024 presidential elections, Trump did threaten that if anybody did try to destabilize the dollar's role, that they would come under pressure. And in fact, when it comes to dollarization itself, we've now seen expectations and headlines about the role of the dollar and its demise since roughly the 1970s. So let's see if the dollar's run is coming to an end. But Richard, what are your views? What are you watching in terms of financial market views?
I agree with Rez because people are trying to shift from the USD, like BRICS, everything is going on and so on. This will get more attention to gold, Bitcoin, and so on. So alternative assets. Regarding Andy, which is fun, but not to me, because I remember when Trump coin got listed and everyone went crazy. Like 20 people, I woke up. It was during my sleep. I woke up for 20 people. How do I buy Trump coin? One of them I didn't see for like 20 years. This is good. Driving in more people, fresh version people from crypto to crypto. So, which is something good. But in my opinion, I follow the big money, which is ETFs, Bitcoin reserves. So the US started with strategic Bitcoin reserve, which is something good. ETFs bring money, bring inflows, volume, and so on. This is what we want to see, and this is what we saw for Bitcoin in the last couple of months after approving the first ETF. So, gold ETF in 2004 made gold surge by 700% in 7 years. So, BTC ETF just was a couple of months ago, and we're already up, I don't know by how much. So this is just year one. So expect what we can expect in the future.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. And now we're going to talk a little bit further about the global markets volatility that we experienced in the early stages of April throughout that month, where many global assets slumped. And to be fair, it wasn't just cryptocurrencies and assets, also global financial markets too. However, on this debate about gold versus Bitcoin as a safe haven, gold will be remembered as a winner with that precious metal during that period hit an all-time high after all-time high. So why do you gentlemen think that it might be possible that gold appreciated so much during that financial market volatility, but Bitcoin was not in the investor flavor at that time? And I'll start with you, Andy.
Well, again, I'm not an economist, and sorry I didn't read the questions, but my take is this, it all depends on who is the one holding on to the Bitcoin and gold, right? Because right now, if you look at the market in general, and the gold has been around for decades, a lot of powerhouses are actually holding on to gold, right? They could always do a different kind of manipulation, to the price because they owe a lot of the gold, right? Versus right now, Bitcoin is just in the beginning, right? So I sometimes felt that, even for the topic, it's not fair to really look at the comparison between gold and Bitcoin, to be really honest. And if we go back to the earlier things that I've touched on, as long as we zoom into specific times, I still felt that Bitcoin has a larger return on investment compared to what gold is. And we should not just zoom into the times in April where gold is in the all-time high and Bitcoin is still trying to build up the upstream, for in terms of price. So this is one thing that I really want to highlight. And the second thing is, again, gold ETFs have done very well, throughout the years and years and years. Bitcoin is also trying to catch up, and also many other ETFs are going to be launched, in the American market and so forth. We will see more price pumps, to be very honest. But I have a school of thought as well. Sometimes we as I believe everybody is a crypto guy, right? Yeah, right. Okay. So sometimes you just remember this. We kept complaining that the fiat guys has kind of screwed us up. And then why the hell are we talking about ETFs, to be honest? Because we will fall back into that zone where things can be much, much more manipulated, right? Just a school of thoughts, just trying to make this sound a little bit more debatable, So, two cents worth, yeah.
Thank you, Andy. And respond?
I think volatility is the main factor in this event you mentioned in your question. Investor, when there is some geopolitical or economical, disagreement, so people used to look for the asset which is less volatile. That was the reason that gold jumped, and Bitcoin was not impressive at that time. That was the main reason, because volatile people will not go for volatility in terms of economic downturn. They will go for security. That's what the reason for the gold appreciation.
Okay, thank you so much, Rasman. And Richard, what is your view?
Why gold went up but not Bitcoin, right? So, because in panic mode, everyone goes to what they know. They know gold, right? They can see it, they can touch it, everyone loves it. But when the panic fades, they start looking for, okay, what's next? And that's where Bitcoin steps in. So first panic, gold, then what? Bitcoin. And gold might be a leading indicator for Bitcoin's next move, by the way. So when gold goes up, makes all-time highs, a very clear one, like 200, 100%, let's not be optimistic. Next step would be, okay, I take profit from a safe investment, what they call, and I put the profit of the safe investment into something more risky, which would be Bitcoin, and then make profit for Bitcoin, which is happening now, making all-time high after gold, then booking profit from a slightly riskier investment and put it into a more risky investment, like layer 1, ETH, and so on, and then into a more risky investment, layer 2, layer 3. So they start pumping cycle after cycle from the less risky to the most risky, starting with gold, ending with meme coins.
Thank you so much, Richard. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk a little bit more now about the Bitcoin price action. We've mentioned a few different all-time highs that have been reached over the past 24 hours, including above 110,000 US dollars in the early hours of trade today. So, gentlemen, what are we watching now when it comes to potential Bitcoin targets and price action?
I think there's no limit to how much it can grow, to be honest. There's no limit. But I wrote an article a few days ago, that you would likely, this year, I think would likely go between 150 to 160,000, based on what I see from the market. But things change really fast, for Bitcoin. That's the fun part, because today, maybe Michael is going to come in and say, Michael Saylor is going to come in and say he's going to buy more, right? He's or maybe Tether, Paolo is coming in to say that they are going to increase their Bitcoin treasury, for example. So it's quite volatile, but I think my humble opinion is around about 150,000 ish should be the price point that I'm looking at.
Thank you so much, Rizwan.
I would be really bullish in Bitcoin, and next level would be around 115,000, and next 120,000 in coming next 2-3 months. And when we see like price action in gold, it would be around 3,700, 3,900 easily, because as per geopolitical situation and trade agreements and all that. So both assets will be bullish in short term.
Okay, thank you so much. And Richard, as the technical analyst, any expectations for price action?
I wish I can share the chart. This is what I love. You will see me talking like 10 years. So for BTC, we've rejected the low bound of the wedge pattern. We are trading into a rising broadening wedge, which would be getting extended every single time on every impulse and correction. I'm trying to show you by my hands. So currently we are breaking above the all-time high, which is the correction, now done. We broke the all-time high, which is the upper band of the range. I'm expecting 135 to be exact, which would be intersecting with the upper trend line of this wedge pattern, which I demonstrated. And then we might have a big correction, might be a bad event, exchange getting bankrupt. I don't know, I don't predict the future. But this is short term, like a couple of months, we'll be seeing 135, hopefully. And then for the end of cycle, I've made a big long article. You can search about me and you can see it. I compared the previous cycles, halving, all-time high, how many percentage, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I'm seeing 268. I know it's exact 268.5, but we'll see.
Thank you so much, guys. So, one of the campaign pledges that the returning United States president made before he won the November 2024 presidential elections was that he would make America the crypto capital of the world. As fears around potential trade wars and some other elements start to fade in financial markets, we're starting to see a little bit more, I would say, headlines returning towards this campaign pledge about making America the crypto capital of the world. So would you guys be of the opinion that maybe this is also what's driving price sentiment with the all-time highs that Bitcoin's making this week?
I think it's quite bullish, the kind of statement that he has made. I mentioned about the dinner. If you are on X, for example, Justin Sun is actually now in US, touring US and also getting himself prepared to be at the dinner itself. So since America is open to famous guys like him, which means I think the regulations are really very clear. They are very open right now. Just come in, let's move the market. So I personally think that this is a journey of making crypto great again in America, and of course for everyone.
Okay, and Rizwan?
Yeah, I would agree. This was a big factor, like when the government level announced policies in terms of crypto regulation, and still they are facing challenge how to tax crypto investors. So this will be win-win situation for the governments, because if they tax crypto investors, their revenue will be increased, as well as innovation will be coming around. And I think this was a main factor for US politics and all in its campaign. He mentioned about the crypto. So right now, what we are seeing the price level, this can be one of the main factors.
Thank you so much, Rizwan. And Richard, is it the campaign pledge towards making America the crypto capital of the world that's inspiring some recent price action?
Yes and no, because people at the beginning of his, I don't know how to call it, crown, right? When he became president, so they were expecting the price to go skyrocketing in the second, which didn't happen. Instead, they took profit, they made, I'll remain polite. I will not say big words, but they made the price go down on purpose for them to buy cheaper and so on. But now, since they are lowering tariffs, it's driving optimism back in the market. People were pessimistic. If you watch the Fear and Greed Index, you see it at all-time lows a couple of weeks ago. Now we are in greed. Next will be extreme greed, and then we'll be pushing lower all the way back in. So anyway, now greed 135k for Bitcoin, extreme greed, and panic go down again. Anyway, now we are no longer in the fear phase, we are in the change phase. Everything is changing, fear is done, we bought gold, went up, made all-time high. Now we are changing a lot of things in the US and worldwide. So when there is change, people look for control. When there is fear, they look for safety, gold. Now they're looking for control, and Bitcoin gives control. Gold is where you run to in a time of fear, but Bitcoin is where you run through.
Thank you so much, Yasmin. And actually, our next topic, we're going to talk a little bit more about gold. And gold, although it went up as much as 30% throughout 2025 already, actually it had a very stellar 2024 as well. So what are the other topics and what are the themes that have helped drive gold price action over the past 18 months or so during what has been a phenomenal and historic run where it's nearly doubled in value? I'll start with Richard.
Yep. The main ones are central banks buying Bitcoin, buying gold. I always say Bitcoin. So central banks buying gold like crazy. So especially Russia and China. That's the main reason why we drove gold this much higher. The second one is inflation. The third one was tariffs that Trump made potential wars, which is now cooling off. Happy for that. But the main reason, in my opinion, which drove gold like crazy, which we didn't see previously, is wars. So this past year, we had war between, of course, in the Middle East. This is the one that I felt. But we had wars between China and Taiwan, between Russia and Ukraine, Pakistan and India lately. What else? We had one more war, I forgot which one. So wars is what drive panic, fear. So people run to something they know, something they can protect them from. Because if we have wars in countries, which means cash is no longer valuable. So this is why gold went up like crazy because of all of these wars.
Yeah, there's multiple different factors and themes that some would argue that drove the gold run, including institutions and central banks as well, loaded up on gold reserves, concerns over Chinese economic growth, and improving retail demand for gold as a physical asset. With that in mind, guys, do anybody else have any more contributions towards what drove gold over the past 18 months?
I think about gold, I would agree with Rich that the central bank buying was the main reason. And the second is price stability in the gold. If you compare last 6 months, it's continuing bullish. And the price for the gold derived from the demand as well. Like there is industrial demand for the gold as well as people use for the end user like jewelry and all this stuff. So I think that was the reason.
Thank you, Ms. Wan. And Andy?
I look at it because of also on the demand side of things, because I think with the wars and so forth, that that is kind of in the air. Gold will become a really nice and safe haven, to hold, and gold will become a much nicer hedge, compared to some of this Bitcoin that we are talking about. To be very honest, because many of these countries that are in trouble, they really see gold as something that they could exchange for money much more immediately, right? So that's the reason why, why gold came up a lot more in the last few months actually.
Thank you so much. And guys, we've just got one remaining topic to go on this afternoon. I want to thank all of our panelists for their contributions and their insights. Clearly, 2025 has already been very eventful. We've had a lot of erratic headlines and quite incredible volatility at times. But as we start looking towards now the second half of 2025, are there any potential themes or risk that you think investors need to monitor? And this question can apply to both Bitcoin and gold. And I'll start with you, Andy.
I think investors got to be very mindful, that, like our dear friend, analysts, and so forth, correctly mentioned, maybe we will see a big correction, at the nearing the end of the cycle. So we just got to be very careful on that. But again, on the flip side, I also want to emphasize that since Bitcoin is volatile, this means that all of you, in the audience, you have a chance. If you are able to catch the next wave, you could be able to make some really good money. So that's my few cents worth, for this question.
Thank you so much, Andy. And Usman?
I think next half of the year will be more stable because the trade settlement and there will be stability in the price, and I would not see more volatile market, and that's enough. If you want to add something.
I agree with Riz. I'm also expecting stability. It's like someone told Trump, let's not say who, okay, now it's over, the game is over, let's make things right. So last month he trying to stop the war between Ukraine and Russia. Lately we had a war between India and Pakistan. He also interfered and stopped the war. He's not forcing, let's not say it. He's trying to push on Jerome Powell, okay, lower interest rates now. So something is changing, right? So that's why we can see Bitcoin now breaking all-time high. So in my opinion, it would be good times. And as per my previous cycles, I've lived 2 cycles. I've lived for 35 years, but in crypto, I lived 2 cycles, so I felt it. And I know that summer is usually the best. So the end of cycle, which is the summer, which is coming now, June, July are the best month. Not a financial advice, but usually these 2 months are very, very good. Then on end of August, September, we see a big correction, which people call crash, which is not crashing. It can go from 1,000 to 100,000. Wow, no one's talking. It goes from 100,000 to 80,000. They start panicking, it's going down, and you can get the headlines. Anyway, so this is basically it. We see a correction by the end of summer, and then one more bullish wave towards the end of year, and that would be it.
Thank you so much. And that comes to the conclusion of today's panel. I would like to thank Andy, Rizwan, and Richard for their contributions today, as well as each of you in the audience for listening. Hope you found this insightful. Thank you once again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the expo.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jamil.